I saw a video on TikTok captioned Average Church in England, and it was a video of a beautiful church in the English countryside. It was very right wing coded. Someone had commented on this video saying, yes, it is beautiful, just like mosques in Hindu temples. You should be inclusive. This individual is obviously suggesting that all religions and cultures are wonderful and they should all be respected and seen for their beauty. I will give it to them, this is a logically consistent kind of multiculturalism that you don't tend to see from the left, and it's probably well intentioned too. Now, many of our people would like to disagree with them, but don't know why. So, why shouldn't we be inclusive, and more importantly, why do we reject the supposed beauty of the mosque and view it with such negativity? Is it mere ignorance and prejudice or bias and racism, or is it something bigger? Well, it comes down to symbolism and metaphor, something that has been completely forgotten about mainly because of the liberal progressives and their capturing of our institutions. Regardless, symbolism remains fundamental in shaping our perspectives of things, whether we are aware of this or not. To exemplify, think of physical beauty. Most men and women find the opposite sex attractive when they're in good shape, have clear skin, or luscious hair. Why is this? Well, it's because these things are symbolic of good health. An individual with these are likely to be thriving, at least in terms of their physical well-being. So, what does this have to do with our perception of foreign religious buildings and, more specifically, the mosque? Well, it's what it symbolises. When I see a church, subconsciously I am reminded of my now passed great-grandmother, a devout Irish Catholic. I'm reminded of our ethnic people's history, as Christianity was introduced to Britain in the 4th century and more widely adopted from the 7th century all the way up until very recently. I'm reminded of my primary school nativity. I'm reminded of the St Andrew's Cross of Scotland, the St George's Cross of England, and for me more personally, the Irish flag that symbolises Christian unity on the island. In terms of moral progress, I'm reminded of the abolition of slavery and Britain's fight against it. Overall, Christianity is positive, familiar, personal, and our people's history and culture is rooted within it. This makes the church beautiful in myself and many others' eyes because what it symbolises is beautiful. On the other hand, the mosque symbolises something a little more sinister. Again, it might be subconscious, but you can't help but be reminded of things like the Manchester bombing, the 7/7 London bombings, the Lee Rigby murder, the London Bridge attacks, the Westminster attack, the Glasgow airport attack. In terms of organisations, it reminds us of Al-Qaeda, ISIS, the Taliban, Hamas. More attacks like 9/11, the 2015 Paris attacks, which saw over 100 killed, the Nice truck attack, the Madrid train bombings that claimed 200 lives, and the Brussels bombings. Furthermore, it symbolises the communal hub that a significant portion of Britain's grooming gang perpetrators and their accomplices or cover-uppers would have attended. Of course, none of these things are representative of the Muslim community as a whole, but Britain hasn't experienced any positive contributions from this community. Neutrality cannot be symbolised, so all the building of the mosque ends up symbolising is the negative. It literally cannot be perceived any other way. To add to the previous, the mosque symbolises the takeover of British towns and cities, with indigenous Brits being made a minority against our will, causing white flight. This is especially so upsetting when you see a church converted into a mosque. It's sort of like how supporters of Ukraine find it so upsetting to see a Ukrainian flag torn down for a Russian one. If liberalism is followed to its logical conclusion, you would say that it doesn't really matter, that it's just a piece of cloth with a different pattern on it. However, supporters of Ukraine see it as a symbol of Western democracy being torn down and replaced by a symbol of a totalitarian oligarchy that has no concern for human rights or individual liberty. Regardless of what Ukraine really is, it is completely understandable why someone who believes such things to be true would be deeply saddened by the Ukrainian flag being swapped out for a Russian one when Russia gains control and conquers a particular area of Ukraine. In the British context, the church being remodelled into a mosque is exactly the same. A building of familiarity and positivity is being replaced by a building that is foreign and unfriendly. This makes us incredibly uncomfortable, and rightfully so. The church is what you see across Europe. a continent that, despite its flaws, is still significantly better than its counterparts. A mosque, however, is what you see in Iran or Afghanistan, home to repressive regimes who hate their citizens. As more mosques pop up, it creates a feeling that we are moving closer and closer to a future like theirs. To trace back and make a final point, the mosque more broadly symbolises the demographic replacement of our people who have inhabited the British Isles for millennia. A kind of replacement that is not desirable, and actually a replacement that we've repeatedly fought against but been ignored at every call. Although this doesn't claim that the mosque is, in and of itself, something bad and terrible, or that a particular community is evil and wrong, what it is saying is that when people are having an issue with inclusivity, diversity, when they don't like the sight of a mosque in their towns or cities, it's actually completely justifiable. There's a reason it upsets us. There's a reason it looks threatening. Because largely, it kind of is. There's a story in a town, I can't come up with the name, it's a very small little population, I think it's 97% white, and they're trying to open a £2.3 million mosque in the area. Locals don't want this, obviously. And the issue isn't that it's just a piece of brick. The issue is what it symbolises. Everything I've just mentioned. You do not want to be walking around your little nice quaint town and seeing a building that symbolises to you, and is a metaphor of, such evil. So if you do have an issue with the mosque, and with other buildings and other foreign objects and symbols like it, then you're justified in that feeling. There's nothing wrong with that. And if you want to take that feeling of negativity and you don't just want to be in your feels about it and be upset about it, then there's a political solution, and that's called the Homeland Party, who aren't just going to talk about the problems, who aren't just going to lead you down a path and then turn their back on you and be traitors like Nigel Farage, for example. They're actually going to do something about this. They have policy on it. They have people who, I think it's quite clear that they genuinely care, and if they were given the chance to do something about it, they would. And you might think, well, they're not going to get in Westminster anytime soon, are they? They're not going to be leading, not going to be forming the next government. But however, if they were in your council, for example, they wouldn't allow planning development for a mosque like the one I just mentioned in a small town to take place in your town, because guess what? That could happen. In fact, it is happening. Just because it happens in another place doesn't mean that it's not happening in your country. In that, to be honest, it's not as if one part of the country is completely different from any other. So yes, I think you should join the Homeland Party today, like I have done. In fact, I donate £15 every month. I'm not being paid to talk about this. This isn't some sort of sponsorship. I would have to mention that, of course. I don't work for them. I'm just a concerned citizen like you. I'm a nationalist, and I fight for my people and my country and the territorial integrity of Britain. So thank you for watching, and I hope you gained something insightful from this video.